Hi, everyone. Andy and I are here to speak about our 6-month course, The Magic of Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus, Transformation, Surrender, and Upheaval, that is going to be beginning in a month. And this course goes over 6 months so that we can come into dialogue and connection and synergy and magical awareness with these great ones who are doing a very interesting shift within the same piece of time that is something that doesn't happen very often in human Earth time. So we thought we would just introduce ourselves and our a little bit about our work to y'all, and then we'll talk about the course and end with a meditation to give you an idea about how and why we might be approaching these forces in this way. So, Andy, could you tell us a little bit about yourself, your work, your passions, and what brings you to this course?
Yeah. Hey, y'all. I'm Andy, also go by Anders. I have been practicing astrology professionally for the last 6 years, but I've been a student since I was 12, and I have, in that time, only witnessed a few outer planet transits occur because they happen so slowly. So I'm very excited about this moment right now. And I have been practicing magic and witchcraft since 2017 and met Theo in an Pentacle class in 2019. And we've been working together under mutual mentorship exchange for the last year. And out of that conversation of the blending of astrology and witchcraft came this idea for this course as we were looking ahead to 2025 and seeing that the outer planets were all changing sign in reverse order. Actually, I think Theo, you were the first one to bring that up and point that out. And and I know that this class is the container that I would like to have to move through this really momentous time together. And I know that doing things collectively and in community just creates such a potency um, to my own magic. So that's why I'm really excited to be um, creating this container with Theo. And what about you, Theo? Why are you interested in doing this course together? And who are you?
Yeah, I'll answer it in that order. Um, I have been into astrology in a more like disciplined way since 2017, 2018, and before that, I had probably a very confused relationship with the practice of astrology. However, I have been deeply involved in teaching the craft and magic both privately and also more publicly since 2009, and but have been practicing witchcraft since I've been 11. And I write books about that. It's kind of my whole world. And I guess for me, astrology became something I came to later in that practice because I think I needed all of these other um, disciplines and divinatory skills and magical awarenesses before I could like really come to astrology in a way that felt sensuous, animistic, sorcerous, and mystical. I think that astrology is sometimes kind of packaged in a different way, even by kind of modern practitioners of astrology. And so I needed to come to it later. Um, and that, and I'm very curious about the outer planets, or I guess the so-called transpersonal planets. I'm very curious about Uranus and Neptune and Pluto for a variety of reasons. I think culturally they are seismic shifters of um, the way in which we can track our trajectories as a species on this planet. And yeah, as someone who was deeply impacted, is deeply impacted by Pluto moving into the first degree um, of Aquarius, as my sun is in the first degree of Leo, I was like very much noticing what was coming up. And then I started to look at, the ephemeris and notice this other situation that was coming our way. And I too, as Andy said, I need a container of powerful witchery magic and astrological perspective to help me through this time. I'm already at such a time of upheaval and transformation, and I feel that one of the best things about magic and ecstatic ritual and witchcraft is that we can work with these forces mindfully, consciously, uh, sensuously, erotically, artistically, and that we can not we don't have to feel like we're at the whim of these things. We can practice surrender, which to me is a little bit different from submission. And we can practice riding these tides. And I think that that is exactly the attitude I'm bringing to this course. How can we learn to ride these huge seismic shifts, not exactly, tracking how this will affect everything, but getting a sense and a feeling for how we in our body beings can navigate this excellently or mindfully or artfully. So that's why I'm drawn to this work. I'm curious, Andy, like what do you feel since Pluto has already shifted and has committed to Aquarius, I think until 2043, like what do you perceive even just that alone means for our species, this planet?
Yeah, great question. So Pluto and Aquarius to me is uh, we've already seen like the rise and introduction of artificial intelligence becoming so much more mainstream. I think it's already been part of our way that we relate to technology in more subtle or unseen ways, and now it is very present. And with the shift of that, there has been like this threat. It feels like there's both this really great um, opportunity. Some people see it as a really wonderful opportunity for things to really shift and change the way that we relate to our own time and labor and capacity, and like what a gift AI is. It can help. That's what tools and technology do in theory, is they're supposed to help us live our lives with greater ease. And there's also this like looming threat that AI poses of um, uh, it's like whose labor and time are we saving? I know a lot of my friends who are artists and writers and creators have been very disturbed by how quickly AI has just sort of taken over. And what does that have to do with Pluto and Aquarius? Pluto is a planet that, for me, has to do with what is sort of lurking in the shadows. There's this can be this fear and paranoia, and where there's fear, there's power. Um, and so um, Pluto moving into Aquarius is bringing our attention to what we're most afraid of and where we have the most power as well. And Aquarius is a very future-oriented sign, and often has to do with technological innovation. And so bringing those two things together, that's how I've been seeing it so far. And we're just at the very beginning. And so I'm thinking about the babies who are being born right now who are never going to know a world in which AI did not exist, and how generationally that is so different from you and I being in the Pluto and Scorpio generation. These babies who are going to be born over the next 20 years are generationally in tension with us as Pluto and Scorpio. And so I'm also really curious to see how that plays out as millennials become elders and sort of the holders of the knowledge of what life was like before the internet, let alone before AI. Um, so uh, those are some of the things that I've been thinking about as Pluto's moved into this early degree of Aquarius. Um, I'm curious to know, Theo, of these three planets, Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus, which one do you feel like you have the strongest connection to? Or are you most sort of curious or excited to see what happens as it enters a new sign?
Yeah, my answer is Uranus. So because I'm Aquarius rising, my chart ruler is Saturn, which is conjunct in my chart with Uranus, which some modern astrologers would say is the ruling planet of, Aquarius anyway. But so for me, it's a moot point, right? So so Uranus to me, I love the Promethean kind of ruiner and like provocateur and like I don't know, there's this like intoxicated mystic rabble rouser that I get from Uranus. And so, Uranus has been reshaping and changing so much of how we conceive of the concept of what land is, of what food is, as Uranus has been moving through Taurus. I also feel like Uranus moving through Taurus has been an opportunity for us to understand also what culture is. And there have been many, the term culture wars has become like kind of like a normative thing to say, in the last piece of time. I think it was 2018, right, when Uranus went into Taurus. And and now that Uranus is moving into Gemini, I fear like there's a part of my humanness that fears that, because it just seems to me like Uranus and Gemini might be too similar. And so I'm like, wow, that's a lot of exacerbation of what Uranus might already be like, except that I also consider the sign of Gemini to be a collector and synthesizer and catalyzer of new thought, of new technology. And certainly that is what happened last time Uranus was in Gemini. Um, so I'm excited about that shift in the way the collective consciousness feels into the plasticity and versatility of thought. And obviously that totally links in with AI and the impacts of AI we already see. And also, who knows the way we could wield AI. I think AI itself is quite neutral, but of course, all these systems, right? And so, that create these horrible situations for, as you mentioned, artists and creatives and the kind of that their work belongs to them. I think what fascinates me about this next piece of time, this 2025 kind of vault of upheaval or spiral or labyrinth or forest of upheaval, I feel like there is being revealed to us a signposting of the way that we as humans can take responsibility for revolution and the way that we can be cunning and clever about what that actually might mean, how that actually looks. I feel like there's a renaissance also of magic. The last time Uranus was in Gemini, this was the seeds of the witchcraft revival. So I'm really, really noticing that in the last 10 years, there's been a lot of interest across the board in witchcraft and magic and astrology. But I think that is all a shadow, a pale shadow of what is to come with Uranus coming into Gemini, and Pluto in Aquarius. And then with Neptune and Aries, I remember last year at some point, maybe even a year ago now, we did this trance work, you and I, where well, certainly I remember seeing Neptune and Aries like this underground, this underwater oceanic volcano like coming up um to create something I don't know, very Vulcan, very Hephaestus. And I'm like, well, what does that mean? Neptune and Aries seems like a planet of potential obfuscation or a planet of deep mystic, insight or dreaminess is suddenly in the cardinal fire sign. Like suddenly, what does that even look like? So I'm like that's very exciting, actually. There's a part of my nerd self that is deeply excited by that. How are you with like the Neptune and Aries thing?
I'm also excited. And I remember when we did that trance together, that was the first time that I really felt what that shift was going to be like because I was having a hard time wrapping my head around Neptune and Aries because energetically they feel so different. Neptune in Pisces, which we've been in since 2011, feels like there's so much um, synergy there. As you mentioned, like the modern ruler of Aquarius is Uranus, the modern ruler of Pisces is Neptune. And so, um, thinking about Neptune, literally its symbol is like the trident. It's like the king of the sea moving out of the ocean and into the realm of fire. Um, uh, it's like it made sense to me, like the way that I felt Neptune and Aries was that Neptune's desire for um, oneness and unity and transcendence comes through melting and the heat of the intensity of Aries just like melting things together, as opposed to Neptune and Pisces dissolving and things coming together in water. And I was like, that's a very different energy. It feels very intense. Um, I I don't know that I'm ready for it. Like my my son is at 0 degrees of Cancer, and so this Neptune moving into Aries is going to be making a challenging aspect to my son. And I'm like, we'll see what that could be. I've already changed so much in my 35, almost 36 years here on this earth. I'm like curious to see what new mysteries lie within that I have yet to uncover. Um, because Neptune can bring about some disorientation. I think in our discussion of this course and how we wanted to work with uh, the Neptune and Aries piece, we talked about disillusionment and that actually being a really empowering experience to fully see things as they are, rather than being caught up in some um, fantasy or deception or um, not like not tethered in reality, which Neptune is all about escapism and fantasy and but there's something about it being in Aries that it's like that is just it feels so embodied to me in a way that Neptune and Pisces does not. So I'm curious to see how it lands in my body too, as it's squaring my sun. Um, shall we move on to the meditation?
Yeah, so we would love
Yeah.
to facilitate a meditation that is pithy and potent, which is a phrase from our reclaiming tradition that I personally love to use. Um, and to give you an idea of like some of the ways in which we might interact, because maybe you're more of an astrology student and it's potentially true, although I think there are many ways to ecstatically engage the planets, that it has been rarer for you to engage magically or ritualistically or trancy with the planets. But in this course, we're going to be doing that a lot. And from the other side, if you're, a witch who's like astrology curious, or if you're an occultist who is like astrology curious, you know, there's going to be a lot of downloading of like historical, astrological information and, you know, what these aspects might mean for us and looking at our own natal charts and these aspects. And so this can be such a like a syncretism or a braiding together of you know, twins, which are totally lovers anyway. So yeah, so maybe Andy, if you could begin with helping us to sense and feel Pluto in Aquarius, and then we'll just pass back and forth.
Great. Yeah, so I invite you to close your eyes if that feels comfortable to you. If not, you can just soften your gaze, soften your focus. Just taking a breath, feeling your body being held and supported by the land where you are, and imagining yourself seated at a table in a room that is high up. The view from atop a mountain can see far into the distance, and seated at this table is Pluto, dressed in some high-tech fashion that is not yet recognizable. It's from the future, very futuristic looking. It's hard to tell what is body, what is technology. And there's an air around this Pluto of power that feels both alluring and maybe even a little intimidating. You don't know what this figure is truly capable of, but that excites you perhaps. And just feeling how it feels to be in the presence of this figure, this futuristic figure. When the door to this room opens and in walks Neptune.
I invite you to feel into the deep rhythm of your breath, feeling into how your flesh and blood notices notices this being or this feeling or this energy enter the room. What has been seahorse and pearl and the deep dream of the darkness at the bottom of the sea now smells like the freshest spark. Now is the match struck that lights the candle. Smells the way ozone smells, fried by lightning hitting the tree. Can you feel the rumbling in the deepest pit of the ocean? Noticing what it's like. And maybe you feel like you are Neptune in Aries, or maybe you're observing Neptune in Aries, entering this convergence place, this meeting place. What is it like to perceive a great titan, a great mysterious force embodied within a planet, the great mover and shaper of our unconscious, the secrets between all things, the dreams that link things together, that link our unconscious. What is it to sift hopelessly between fact and fiction and fantasy and illusion and truth? What is the nature of all of this? Can we shift our own shape to perceive something in a different way? And what does it mean when all of that perspective suddenly feels itself to be clearer, feels itself to be like a hunter looking deep down into all things, waiting to make a move, poised on the brink of sprinting or flying forth? And yet another one opens a door or moves through a portal of time and space and fate, entering this room.
In comes Uranus. So quickly you don't even see it, but you feel it, the whoosh of the air, the whoosh of thought, the synapses firing, Uranus entering in Gemini, the mutable air sign that is shifting, shifting ideas, shifting speech. Uranus, the revolutionary, the rebel, the rioter, the first brick at Stonewall, Uranus, who pushes and challenges the status quo. Uranus, the disruptor, and the sign of the twins of duality. There is more than one way to start a revolution, says Uranus and Gemini. There's always more than one way, and we need both. We need this dual presence, this connection and blending and synthesis. Uranus and Gemini darting around the room can hardly sit still, moving, talking, hand gesticulating wildly. Uranus looks at Pluto and they see each other. Is Pluto in Aquarius, bedecked and bedazzled, and all the future's finest? Sees this Uranus and Gemini, whose ideas are also from the future, and they get each other, and they both look over to Neptune, this hunter, pulsing and alive, and they're like, yeah, we need that. That's what's going to feed this revolution, that life spirit, that raw life force energy. And so the three of them coming together, shaking hands, feeling those energies converging. feeling that in your body. How does that feel?
And you might want to gather up with your breath, with your capacity to envision or to feel or to perceive or to direct your senses. You might want to cup your hands in front of your solar plexus or your heart or your navel or at your brow, wherever it feels good and right. And you might want to direct with breath or sound or vision or sensation these three great ones who will be holding out their faithfulness to one another, their great eyes perceiving each other in harmonious aspect with each other, but in an aspect which creates immense change, the catalyzing potential of huge upheaval, of alchemical transmutation. And feeling that, feeling the air and the fire, the lightning, feel that move through your hands. And what is your wish for this world? What is your desire that you wish to feel and know and see manifest in this world? What are your hopes and fears? Feel yourself allowing there to be space to hold all of that. And with that, let that go. Give it to the earth, give it to the air, give it to the secret parts of yourself where you feel able to hold it. And remember where you are right now. If your eyes are closed, open them. If you need to stretch or say your name aloud 3 times or drink your tea or coffee or milk or juice or water, and just feeling yourself stretching and being here right now. Thank you so much for joining our little window into our course. You will notice in the description below the registration information. This course does begin on let me just check that. It's for me, it's the 16th of March, but for you, it might be the 15th of March. It begins that weekend. Um, and yeah, we're so happy for you to join us. And you don't need that much. This is like not an advanced course, although there will be, a great deal of, magic and astrology within it that forms the content. But there are so many access points to this course, and you can probably come into this if you already have a sense of your own connection to the elements of life, if you know how to ground yourself, if you're comfortable with meditation practice, if you already have interest in divination, if you follow the moon and the seasons, or have an ancestral practice, these are all doorways for you to come into this work. Is there anything else you would like to add, Andy, before we close?
I would also say that this is also not an advanced astrology class either. We'll be working to make it accessible to folks, and there's not a presumption that you already know everything about Pluto, Uranus, and Neptune, or know even where they are in your own chart. Like that can all be discovered and explored together in this course.
Hooray!
Yay.
Okay, well, we hope to be with you between the worlds in March. So thank you so much, everyone. Have wonderful days and
Thank
nights.
you.